Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your sun in Aquarius or your sun in the 11th house. My name is Brandon. I do astrology videos here on YouTube, and this is part of a much larger series where I talk about specifically each planet in each sign and house. I have a playlist down below where I have talked about every single planet prior to Aquarius in the 11th house. So if you have any planets prior to the Aquarius 11th house or anything between the Aries and Capricorn or the 1st and 10th house, there's going to be a video down there for you. This is part of a much larger series, like I said, and the series is really meant to kind of really lay a really good foundation and framework for a lot of different people that are learning more about astrology. And if you're brand new to this and you don't know what I'm talking about, there's some links down below you can use to generate your chart. Obviously, you're likely going to know if you have your sun in Aquarius or not, but for the other things within this series, as I go through this, you're going to find that you might not know if you have your Mars in certain, placements in the chart, yada, 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 all those different things. So it is important to get a full understanding of your astrology chart, and this is just like one specific portion of it. Now, within that as well, I want to let you know that down below I do have timestamps, so I'm going to be talking about specifically the sun in astrology, just first and foremost, just to kind of lay that framework. Then I'm also going to be talking about the sun in Aquarius and then the sun in the 11th house. So you can get a better idea of what you have, because sometimes you have the sun in Aquarius but not in the 11th house, and vice versa. So it is important to kind of get an idea of all the different ways that astrology can work out. And this video is going to be up forever, as long as YouTube exists. So you'll be able to always watch this and kind of go through the series and kind of put things together in that regard. So I really hope this video helps you. Yeah, and I really love doing this. This is what I do, and obviously if you guys like this, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. You know the YouTube thing. I don't have to go over. I hate that I have to go over that every single time, but it is what it is. So without further ado, let's go talk about the sun in astrology. Okay, so when it comes to the sun in astrology, this is going to be this sort of very bright solar energy. Obviously, a lot of us know our sun sign, so typically if you're watching this video, you know what your sun sign is, and you know your sun sign's in Aquarius, or you know your sun's in the 11th house. And when it comes to this sort of archetype, the sun is a lot to do with our identity, what we choose to share, how we choose to show up. And that's why a lot of people really start with the sun sign when it comes to astrology, both as their own journey of self-discovery, in addition to when they judge other people and when they say, oh, this person's just like, this sun sign. And that's something that we typically use a lot to kind of understand. But the thing about astrology is there's way more nuance to this, and there's so many different layers to astrology and to specifically what your sun sign might be doing, because you could have your sun in Aquarius, but it could have an aspect to Jupiter, an aspect to the moon or Mars or whatever it might be, kind of adding to more layers, adding to more complexity of what you are showing, right? And the sun also, it has a lot to do with our creativity, our joy, our spark, our life, our inspiration, our vitality, something that really makes us feel like we're alive, right? And the sun, really dependent upon its aspects and its house, is going to show us how you want to shine, how you want to show up, how you're going to show up, right? If you have your sun in certain areas of the chart, you're going to inherently kind of shine light on and want to be seen in that area or in that specific sign, right? And so as we go through this with Aquarius here, this week of videos is going to be quite interesting, because Aquarius in 11th house is an energy that I, weirdly enough, know quite well as well, but also one that has a lot of very nuanced and different approaches to it, right? Because it's the 11th house, it's this kind of house of different things, right? But we'll get to that when we get to those different portions. But relative to the sun, it is important to know specifically what the sun rules, right? So the sun rules naturally Leo, so it's at home in Leo, and then it's considered to be exalted in the sign of Aries, meaning that the signs opposite those signs are going to be where the sun is going to struggle for different reasons. So if the sun's exalted in Aries, it's considered to be fallen in Libra, and if it is at home in the sign of Leo, it's considered to be exiled or in detriment in the sign of Aquarius, which is the one we'll be talking about today. And when it comes to the sun in dignity, is what that's called, there's a lot of different reasons why in ancient astrology that was kind of how it was brought up. I do think, as it relates to Sun and Aquarius, we'll get to in a moment, a lot of the time, a lot of astrologers will think so negatively of Sun and Aquarius, but I find them to be one of the most loving people when you can connect with them. And I think that's partially because I have my moon in Aquarius, so that's my own like kind of connection there. But in general, the Sun in Aquarius does not mean that it's bad, right? It just means that it struggles to provide light, right? If we think about the Sun in Aquarius, it's quite cold. It's quite, distanced in a lot of ways. And it can have this very aloof personality, but we'll get to that in a moment. My point is that look to your Sun's placement by house and by sign, by aspect, to kind of get a better idea of how your identity is being brought up, how you are trying to share light on something, what you're trying to share light on, what you're trying to communicate about when it comes to yourself, when you're trying to show who you are. How do you show who you are? And that's what I think a lot of the Sun is pertaining to. And a lot of what we see with prominent solar figures are leaders. People that have very prominent suns are leaders, or they are a kind of beacon of light. They are the ones that people look up to, that people admire, that people are inspired by, because that's what the Sun naturally does. It gives us life, it gives us vitality, it gives us energy. And so the Sun's placement will also indicate kind of what you give energy towards, what you want to like bring life to in a lot of ways, what you want to birth, as well as what you want to be seen as in some sort of way. And that's more like on the house placements. We'll get to that a little bit later. But so yeah, without further ado, let's go straight into what it means to have your Sun in Aquarius. Okay, so we have the Sun in Aquarius. So as I said in the previous portion, with the Sun's natural ruler being Leo, the sign opposite Aquarius, this is where the Sun will be a little bit uncomfortable. And the reasoning for that, and I want to get this out of the way first and foremost before I go into anything else with the Sun in Aquarius, is because the Sun is all about our ability to see ourselves and express ourselves and be our own person and be an individual. That's very much what the Sun really wants. It wants us to understand who we are, to explain who we are, to express who we are, to show who we are, and to just be this bright light of confidence, right? It wants to build confidence, build self-esteem, self-expression. It wants us to express ourselves. And the Sun naturally rules Leo, which is all things relative to ourself, our own creation, our own sort of like ability to see what we want to be, right? And who we are, and really just sit within that. And the reason why the Sun's exalted in Aries is because when it's in Aries, it understands that the process of identity takes trial and error, and it takes this kind of consistent leadership and consistent action towards understanding that, okay, if that's not me, I'm still figuring that out, right? I go and I try this thing and I fail, then I know that's not me, and I keep kind of going, right? And that's why the Sun does so well in Aries, because it has that kind of like strong ability of just understanding that that's part of the process of identity formation. Now, when it's in Aquarius, similarly to Libra, it has a little bit of a difficulty in seeing how to see itself clearly. The reason why it doesn't do well in Libra is because it's always looking at the other person, right? That's not to say that the Sun in Libra, Sun in Aquarius cannot do well. It just needs to navigate it through the means and through the lens of either Aquarius or Libra. Because when it's in Libra, it really is looking towards other people's guidance to help it go through things. And there can be value with that. There can definitely be some power with a Sun in Libra as well. But then the Sun in Aquarius, the reason why it's so uncomfortable is because this is the sign relative to all things, group-based, all things that are the audience, right? If Leo is the one on stage, Leo is the one performing, the one that is proud of who they are, the one that is expressing who they are, and just kind of saying, accept me for who I am, they're not really caring about the audience as much. They're just there, they're expressive, they're creative, they're showing the world themselves. When the Sun's in Aquarius, the reason why it can be uncomfortable is because it is looking towards the audience to tell it who it is. It's looking to whoever these people are to kind of figure out who they are, right? And that can be, weirdly enough, like actually more effective over time in a different way. And that's partially because Saturn and Uranus both rule, depending upon how you look at astrology, both rule Aquarius. And with the Saturn aspect of Aquarius, there's a sense of the Sun Aquarius people being way ahead of their time, in what they're seeing, what they're connecting, the pattern recognition that they have through seeing themselves in so many different other people and seeing their ability to relate to so many other different people. And over time, they allow themselves to kind of be put back together. One of the things about Aquarius that I find that is pretty consistent across the board is this idea of fractalization or breaking apart of something. So when we think about Aquarius, we think about this kind of mirror or this glass that is broken, right? That breaks, that fractures through trauma, through difficulty, through misunderstandings, through whatever sort of realm you want to utilize it, it's broken. And then the thing about Aquarius, and this is true for a lot of Aquarius placements, is they can kind of take pieces of that broken mirror or that broken, glass, and they can kind of bend it and look at it and see themselves in different kind of fractals, different type of reflections of themselves. So that's one of the gifts that Aquarius placements really have, is their ability to connect to little fractals and little parts of themselves to kind of help put together that bigger image of their self-concept. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Aquarius 11th house placements, is they have this strong ability to connect to an audience and see themselves in everyone in some way, shape, or form. And that's more of the evolved Aquarius. We can have unevolved Aquarius or Aquariuses that aren't aware of this, that are more attached to their mental ideas, their mental kind of landscape. And as a lunar Aquarius person, I very much value my own mental landscape as well. But the sun in Aquarius, it's interesting because this is once again the ego. And if we put the ego in this kind of mental landscape, kind of futurescape kind of thing, they can almost get attached to, and this is what you'll see a lot with this Aquarius series here, they can get attached to these trends or get attached to a group ideology or some sort of fringe thought or fringe identity. And that's something you'll see with Sun in Aquarius as well. Also, Rise in Aquarius can have this. There's a sense of connection to some sort of fringe or outcasted sort of idea or theme that they want to kind of identify with. So Sun in Aquarius, they can be, the amazing leaders of groups and really allow themselves to be this group expressive person, this person that is so lit up by humanitarian interests and by group thinks. There's a friend of mine that I know that's an Aquarius sun, and one of the strongest memories I actually have of her was when we were actually at a protest many years ago, and she was so connected and so expressive, and she was so proud to be a part of that movement. And that's something that Aquariuses can bring in a way that no other sign can bring. They can bring that understanding of what the collective is thinking. And that's part of the reason why the sun does not do well in Aquarius, because if the sun is all about you and your self-concept and your identity and your sort of connection to yourself, it's connected to everyone else's ideas of what that is too. And that's where the sun can kind of be confused as to what it is. And so a lot of the time too, some Aquariuses, they can be great for group, sort of environments, running groups, supporting groups. But at the same time, there's a sense of being seen for who they are and not as much seen for their accomplishments, their groups, right? So another Aquarius sun that I know, she runs a lot of groups, a lot of support groups, lots of amazing things. And whenever the spotlight goes on to her, right, she deflects it and focuses on her accomplishments, the group, the gratitude of, society. It's almost like people praise them and then they're like, no, it's not about me. It's about the people that helped me. It's about my friends that got me here. Like, they're the ones that are more important. And so there is a sense of kind of awkwardness to that. because the sun, and that's where the Sun Aquarius can also show a little bit, where they're not wanting to be seen as an individual. It's either one or the other. Like, typically they're either like, I want to be seen as an individual so much so that I'm going to be my own person and like kind of just completely neglect mainstream society in some way. And that's, once again, you'll see this a lot with Aquarius placement. It's not just the sun. Or they could be so identified with their movement, with their cause, that they are not able to see themselves as worthy of praise for those accomplishments, praise for those groups, because they're like, oh, I'm leading this group, right? And that's where I think there's a lot of gifts with Aquarius placements, because they have this desire to so deeply help society advance and help groups. And this is where the reason I love Aquarius placements so much is we have this just connection to humanity and just wanting to help people in ways that other people might not, because we see humanity itself, and there's an awareness of just humanity itself that is separate from how most people think, where they think about themselves first. Aquarius placements think about the group first, or there needs to be some awareness of the group first. That's typically what Aquarius strives on, is their connection, awareness of the group. And when like I said, with the sun being here, this is where there can be a little bit of a difficulty, because the sun is how you want to be seen. So you want to be seen as a part of something. You want to be seen as a group, or as as some sort of accomplishment. But then at the same time, you don't know how to necessarily stand alone, because it's interesting. It's interesting in that regard. And I think that's why the sun, out of all the Aquarius placements, is the one that it does struggle the most, because the sun is about our self-concept. And if our self-concept is always shifting based off of who our audience is, there can be a lack of identity, because you're always so aware of what society or your audience or whomever you're talking to on a massive scale wants to hear, that you lose that inner sense of self. And the thing is, once again, to kind of combat that point as well, is, like I said earlier, the sun and Aquarius people over time becomes so intelligent and so true to who they are, because they've had to connect to so many different people and so many different thoughts and so many different ideas, right? This is a fixed air sign. So this is a lot of fixed opinions, a lot of fixed thoughts, a lot of fixed perspectives. But it's also, and that's why I think you'll see this Sun Aquarius being kind of one or the other in how it is responding to praise. Where either it allows it to kind of go to their head, and there is this theme in Aquarius suns that people have said, this kind of trope where there's like a God complex. And I think the part of the reasoning for that is because they are in some way attuned to all of these collective thoughts. Because the thing about Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces, they all rule a collective kind of energy, I guess. So Scorpio rules like the collective shadow. Pisces rules the collective subconscious. And then Aquarius rules the collective consciousness. So that's why Aquariuses get caught up in so many different thoughts and so many different ideas and so many different, audiences and so many different things online. And that's why it rules technology. That's why it rules that social media kind of landscape of connecting to so many different audiences. And one of the things I find so powerful about Sun Aquarius people and Aquarius placements is their ability to be, and I talk about this so much with my 11th house people that I know and Aquarius heavy placements, where there's such a benefit to being in a group environment, whether it's group therapy, whether it's, a group project, whether it's, a like AA, like Alcoholics Anonymous, or any sort of support group. is really great for Aquarius placements, because the gift about Aquarius placements is it has this ability to see itself in others and connect to others, but it doesn't necessarily let that idea or that person really connect. So it allows them to kind of say, oh, like, that story reminds me of me, but like, it's not me. And it allows them to kind of actually process themselves, and see more of themselves more clearly, because maybe they'll find someone who has a very similar story to them, and they're like, wow, that is so true to me in this specific way. And it helps them. And it doesn't need them to go into those feelings, go into that intensity, go into that specific person. And it allows them to say, okay, like, well, that still resonates to some degree, but to that little fractal of me, that little fraction, that little kind of stained glass that I kind of had, right? Stained glass is kind of the imagery I get that's more kind of Pisces, but it can also be Aquarius. Because there's a sense of just breaking apart something and being able to see yourself in every single person, every single idea, every single trend and thought. You can see how it all connects. That's why Aquariuses are so intelligent, because they are so connected to something that is higher than an individual. Because once again, it's not just a consciousness, it's a collective consciousness of Aquarius. And so I think that's why it's so hard, because the sun is typically just a very condensed, focused, in astrology, it's this very condensed, focused light that is very much about ourself and our own consciousness, our own connection to our own identity. When it's in Aquarius, it becomes this very, disconnected to all these different things, and then doesn't have that inner sense of center, which is what I think Aquarius suns really need. They need to be able to know and come back to themselves and see themselves, as opposed to always looking outside of themselves. And they're going to do that for a while anyway, and I think that's actually a good thing to do, because it allows them to have some sense of objectivity, which is what you'll see a lot as well with Aquarius placements, is this idea of objectivity versus subjectivity. And I think that's why, once again, the sun in Aquarius doesn't do well, because the sun is so subjective, and it's so individual, and then Aquarius is so objective and so, collective and so connected to everyone else. So it's something that I think, once again, it's important to look at the entirety of the chart, because astrology is so complex and there's so many different ways that this can play out. If you are an Aquarius sun, you want to look at your Saturn placement to get a better idea of what kind of structures you're needing to learn, and kind of what way that you are needing to learn how to stabilize and really solidify your own identity in, and look at the aspects of the sun, look at the house placement of the sun, obviously, and just really understand that the sun Aquarius is such a gift in a way that not many people talk about yet, because it has this connection to society that is so evolved, and it can make people look at you very differently, and almost push you away because you're too fringe, you're too weird, you're not accepted. But the more you allow yourself to really validate yourself, that's what's really going to help Aquarius placements across the board. But Sun Aquarius, I think, are the ones that struggle the most with this, for obvious reasons, just because it is the sun, and that's what the sun kind of wants, is this sense of validation. And so it's hard, because you don't need to look to the audience to validate you all the time. Because as you evolve, as you change, the audience, you're going to kind of try to chase other audiences to try and get that. And I think there's a lot of power here, with that, with understanding that balance of when to self-validate, when to connect to yourself, and when to kind of go and look at all these fractals and look at all these different, like, I think of Aquarius as well as like kind of this mirror, this kind of mirror funhouse that you go through as well, where there's, so many different ways that you can be distorted and changed and shifted. And that's very much a representation of how Aquarius can be affected by the collective, by their groups, by their friends, by humanity at large. That's why they need to have a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of something they aspire to, some desire they have. Because Aquarius placements can help so much on a societal level. It is absolutely insane. And that's why it's like, okay, we have to make sure we utilize that. Because it's a fine line to walk of genius and insanity. And that's, I think, what most Aquarius placements have to learn, because it rules that Saturn-Uranus thing, right? You know, it rules that kind of structure of Saturn and that kind of fringe and entirely new evolved thought of Uranus. And it's about navigating that line. And it's a very thin line, and knowing how to ground and how to work with the systems that exist with Saturn ruling it, but then also look to how to innovate, how to change, how to push the boundaries of your own mind, of the mind of the collective, of the herd, and the collective consciousness, and to shift society. And that's very, very, very hard to walk that line. And a lot of people with Aquarius placements or strong Uranian placements will fractalize themselves. And by doing that, it comes across as, mental illness. It comes across as people that are worth being rejected in societies, by society standards. And I want you to know that no one deserves that. No one deserves that. Not a single human being on this world deserves to be rejected. I think there's so much power in acceptance, and not in a radical acceptance, but in acceptance, in accepting something within the realm of misunderstanding. Knowing that you can accept something without fully understanding what it is, or how it got there, or where it's going, right? That's something that I think is so important when it comes to Aquarius placements and to society in general, is a sense of radical acceptance, and not saying, oh, I don't understand this, so I'm just going to shove it away. That's something that I think is so common. And as we get into this specific video, as well as some other videos here this week, I have a lot of these placements, and so I have a lot to say on these. One of which would be the next portion, which is the Sun in 11th house, which is what I have. But there's so much of a gift when it comes to having an Aquarius placement, and it's about, once again, knowing what came before you so you can innovate, knowing what works for you, right? So that you can learn how to incrementally do the changes that you need to do, and knowing where you want to go, and trusting the higher kind of guidance. And it might be really, really, random and really shake up your world, because that's what Aquarius placements do. And it shakes up your identity, and it kind of really breaks that apart. But I promise you, through your ability to heal your own, your own pain, your own fractals, your own kind of brokenness, you are going to help in turn so many people. Because the Sun in Aquarius, although it is not a quote unquote, it's a quote unquote bad placement for the Sun, it allows you to still give light and give inspiration to people in a way that is so special, that wouldn't have happened had you have not broken or fractaled, or had this need to connect to the right person or the right people or the right audience. As you learn who your audience is, you will ultimately help more and more people in ways that maybe they don't understand yet, but they will. And it's beautiful. And I love Sun Aquarius. Obviously, I have Sun in 11th house, so we're going to get to that next. And I have a lot more to talk about that too, because obviously I have it. So there's a lot there. And I hope this helps you as a Sun Aquarius person. Just don't lose that light. And know how to utilize your light in a way that is not getting swept away in things, swept away in thoughts, swept away in ideas. Know how to ground, right? Know how to ground within yourself. That's a really big gift too. So if you like this video with the Sun Aquarius, right, I'm going to go and talk more about other stuff in a second, but feel free to comment down below what your Sun Aquarius story has been. I'd love to hear about it. And obviously, if you like this, please like it. Please comment. Please do all those things. You know, the YouTube thing. This is, you don't need me to tell you that, right? And obviously, if you have any questions about this, want to learn more about astrology, all my stuff's down below if you want to reach out to me. I appreciate you. I love you as an Aquarius sun. And I'll see you guys in the next part. We talk about specifically what the sun means in the 11th house. Okay, so we have the sun in the 11th house. So this portion of the video, I want to preface by saying I have this placement. So I have actually all three of the first placements that we're going to be talking about here. I have Sun in the 11th house, I have Moon in Aquarius, and I also have Mars in the 11th house. And then I have Saturn in Aquarius as well. So I have a lot of Aquarian 11th house focuses across the board in my chart. It's actually more of what I have than anything else, is that patterning. Now, so I want to preface it by saying I have, my own experience that I'm obviously going to share with this. I've done it with the Jupiter Virgo video. I did it with the Venus Libra video. Did it with the Mars Scorpio video, Mercury Sag, like all my other placements. And this one is the one that I have been looking forward to for quite a long time. This week in general, I've been looking forward to because of the personal stories that I can bring up. And I think when it comes to astrology, it's really important to utilize your own chart as the basis of your studies. And that's where everyone pretty much utilizes it to really understand so much about their own life and just how astrology works in general. And I think I want to bring my story to the online space to help you understand what the sun means in the 11th house. Now, the sun in the 11th house is not really the same as the sun in Aquarius, because once again, the sun in 11th house doesn't have to be in Aquarius. It can be in any sign. And one of the things about the sun towards the top of the chart here, in the 11th house, is it is pretty bright. It's a pretty bright public light. It allows for a lot of just publicity in general. It allows for a lot of recognition, a lot of group leaders, a lot of connection to society at large, because when the sun's in the 11th, it's lighting up this area of the chart that is related to an audience, to a group, to society, to humanity. And so there's a sense of being perceived by an audience that is very common for 11th house suns. I do it across the board. I'll get to that in a second as a Sun 11th house person. But the same vein, some of the things about 11th house that I find so interesting that is different than Aquarius placements is it can have some overlap with Aquarius placements, but it's a little bit different. Where when we have planets in the 11th house, the more we are giving whatever that planet signifies to the collective, to society, to a group, the more we are going to be successful in the themes of that planet, right? So when it comes to the sun in 11th house, you have to literally give your life force, give yourself, give your expression, show up, be part of a group, be part of a, audience related thing, right? Do something public, do something that is group organizing, right? For me specifically, I also have Mars there, so there's another aspect to that for me specifically. But I've been in many groups, associations, right? The sun in the 11th, it requires the native to almost be seen within a group, to explore groups, right? Similarly to as the sun in Aquarius, it has that same sort of bend to it of really exploring their identity through different associations, different groups, and feeling like who feels right for them or who allows them to see themselves as deeply as they want or as clearly as the sun sign is wanting them to. And there's so much power in a sun 11th house person when you are utilizing it for societal advancement. Once again, personal story, I have just without even trying, just been connected with so many different people. My mother, and this is also to bring up the moon part, because my moon's also in Aquarius, and my son's the 11th. There's a lot of like the same stuff. There's been a lot of networking that I have been brought through my family, through my friends, through just society in general, being a part of something, right? That's something that I think the 11th house is really about. It's about being, and it sounds so basic to say a part of something, but it is important to be a part of a bigger group, a bigger movement, and that's something that the sun really, really wants here. Now, the sun is going to play differently in a bunch of different signs in the top of the chart, 11th house, but it does also have this theme of publicity, of success, because it is this very public part of the chart. The 11th house, the 10th house, they're very public. They're very much seen. They're very much wanting to be seen. And as you kind of, progress throughout the day, the sun will eventually go to the 10th house and then the 9th, and it'll kind of keep going. So there is this sense of progression of light, this kind of increase of your light as a sun 11th house person over time. And there is a sense of just being seen publicly. That is, you just got to do it. As much as as a sun Scorpio 11th, I don't like doing that, but I have to. And I understand that. And it feels very invigorating. It feels like it gives me life to be a part of something, to be a part of a movement, to do those things. And so, like I had said, the sun in the 11th, you're obviously going to want to look to see what the ruler of the sun is doing, for a better idea of what's going on. Of course, your sun sign. So I've done every single sun sign prior to this. The only sun sign I haven't done at this point is a Pisces, obviously. So feel free to check out those videos first before you watch the sun in 11th house, because sun in 11th house has such a uniqueness to it, where you're ultimately meant to be giving your life to some sort of cause, giving your light, giving your inspiration, lighting up, or bringing awareness to a needed cause for humanity as well, is something that I think the sun Aquarius and sun 11th can both do. But the sun 11th, especially if it's a strong sun 11th house, whether it's strong by aspect or it's strong by dignity, whether it's Aries or Leo, are going to have a lot of power there. Now, as someone, like I said, I kind of want to try and keep my own story a little bit brief, but when it comes to the sun in the 11th house for me, I, of course, do astrology, things of that nature. And I have been throughout my whole life, and this once again can tie into the Mars, the moon, right, that I have in my chart, or the Saturn as well, that are all kind of connected to this Aquarius 11th house story. So it's kind of hard to really tell exactly where it comes from. But as for me, with the sun 11th house, what I've found is that I have always had this deep resonance with humanity, with society, with being a part of something seen as a part of a group, right? I have had this theme in my life for many, many years, and to some degree I still do, where there has been a over-identification with what I'm a part of, with who I'm associated with. Meaning, I work at this business, I then become the mascot for that business, right? There's a sense of mascotness. It's not really a word, but being a mascot, being a cheerleader of something, being a leader, because the sun is a very leadership energy, being a leader of some new group, right? And for me, I literally I do public speaking, and this is very sun 11th house, okay? And sun Scorpio 11th house. I do public speaking for a lot of people. And by doing that, as a sun 11th house person, it allows me to share my light, right, with an audience, with a group of people, whoever they may be. And then similarly, in the Aquarius fashion, 11th house fashion, there's a sense of reflection back of different aspects of myself, different questions. So what happens for me, I tell my story in this public speaking setting, tell my story, get questions, do a Q&A, go from there. Okay? And that has been so monumental in my healing, as it's allowed me to see myself and see the value of my life, the sun, right? The value of my life through the realm of whom it can impact and how it can impact an audience and how it can plant these seeds. And in the same vein, astrology, online space is another version of that, right? Being able to be a part of something and help people and bring a message to an audience, and just trusting that ripple effect is going out how it needs to, right? So that is something that I have as a Sun 11th house person. And it is about, once again, for me, it's a lot more layered, because a lot of my chart kind of echoes the same thing. But with the Sun 11th, it is about giving your life, giving your light to something, to a group, sharing your light with a group, being on a stage. That's what I do. On a stage and performing or showing yourself, flaws and all, or whatever the sun wants. For me, it's in Scorpio, so it's very dark. Sharing that and allowing that experience of how the audience responds or reacts or asks questions or engages, to then bring and put yourself back together, right? Now, like I said, the 11th house stuff, there's so much within this, because ultimately the biggest pattern I've seen and the biggest theme I've seen as an 11th house individual is that it's a lot about giving your self to society, giving that planet to societal needs. And the more you do that, the better you're going to be, right? The more you allow yourself to be a gift to society, or to a group, or to a group cause, or helping a fringe group, or helping some group that you are identified with, is going to ultimately help you in so many different ways. And as for myself, that is very, very true. I have been able to help a lot of different people, and I will continue to help a lot of different people because of the fact of just what I do and who I am. And through sharing my story, sharing who I am, it just allows it to keep building. And I know this won't be the last time you see me relative to the astrology stuff or other things as well, just because of the 11th house has this very societal advocacy to it. And so does Aquarius. And it's about you allowing yourself to almost be utilized, your identity almost to be utilized for a societal advancement as a Sun 11th house person. Versus like if it's the moon, if it's Mercury, it's going to be played out a little bit differently. But the sun, it's about utilizing your identity as a societal advancement. Utilizing yourself. Utilizing who you are. Even your children as well, because the sun also rules your children in a lot of ways. It rules betting on yourself to help change society, which is a big ask, right? But if one person can stand alone, and one person can stand against a group or with a group, or so with like in supportance of a group, or bring groups together, right? That's a really great thing with the Sun 11th house. They're really great at bringing groups together and group organizing. Once again, I've done that. There's a level of group awareness that also Aquarius and 11th house placements have very strongly, very prominent in their charts. And the sun here is about being able to see groups, being able to see what society needs, being able to see what the audience needs. And that's why it's so powerful. Now, I'm going to try and go through these pretty quick, relative to the sun in different signs. Obviously, I did all the suns and all the signs, or all the sun signs prior to this, in the videos before this anyway. But let's talk about the sun in like a Martian ruled sign. So either sun in Aries or sun in Scorpio. I have sun in Scorpio, so there's a lot of just regaining of your group identity, regaining your sense of self through losing it to a group in a lot of ways. That's what happened to me. And then the sun in Aries, there's a sense of battling for your identity. There's a sense of battling for your place in the world, battling for what you're advocating for with the sun in a Martian sign. So sun in Aries, obviously this is still going to be great, but this is more of the, they're much more capable of standing alone, and standing proudly and pioneering some new thought. So these are the ones that I think would be the startups, starting the new sort of advancements, the new group things, the new nonprofits, right? That's what the sun wants. It wants to be seen as the leader of this group, right? Or this cause, right? And that's, once again, it's interesting we put the sun exalted here in the 11th, because it really pulls you into group dynamics. It makes you a leader really strongly. Strongly is not a word, I keep saying that, but really powerfully. And the sun in Aries, it has this, like, I want to be first, I want to go after this thing, I want to be proud, right? I want to do this thing. And so there's a lot of power within the sun in the 11th house as an Aries here. Same with sun in Scorpio for different reasons. Obviously, I have so much experience with this. I could do a whole video on this specifically. But there's a sense of fighting and proving your identity with the sun in Scorpio through that power struggle that the sun typically does in Scorpio, which, once again, watch the sun Scorpio video if you're interested more in that, because I talk about that a lot as a sun Scorpio individual. Now, sun in Venus ruled sign, sun in Taurus or Libra at the top, or not the top, but 11th. And once again, too, the 11th house also has a lot to do with our group dynamics and who we bring around us. So I haven't really mentioned that prior to this right now, but the 11th house does have a lot to do with who our audience is and who our impact is and who we surround ourselves with, right? So if we think about the sun in a Martian ruled sign, a lot of our groups, or a lot of the groups that we would shine the best in, are, well, if it's Martian, it's more Martian individuals. So typically more like, quote unquote, like very men and manly related groups. Martial artists, right? Group martial arts, group, fitness. Or if it's sun Scorpio with the sun, there's a lot of occultists. There's a lot of, government as well, because Pluto is very government powerful. There's a lot of power with their groups, with the sun in Aries and the sun in Scorpio, because there's a sense of Martian protection there. There's a sense of kind of like Martian groups, right? Groups that are very fight heavy, right? Very masculine in a lot of ways. And then we come to sun in a Venus ruled sign. And this is true for all of, and I'm going to probably go through this as I go through these videos as well with the friend groups and things like that. But I just feel like it's important to look at here, where when we put the sun in 11th house, it does want to be seen in those groups. And it typically kind of goes to those groups anyway, just naturally. And just the 11th house ruler also can do that, not just the sun 11th house or planet there, but the sun will really bring that out and really want you to be a part of something. Now, if we have sun in a Venus ruled sign, Taurus or Libra, this is going to be obviously being a part of something beautiful, being a part of something artistic. This is where you see the maybe even architects. Like, there's a sense of architects here. There's a sense of being surrounded by artists. In the same vein, sun in Pisces can do this as well, where there's a sense of being connected to people that are just, beautiful and nice and calm and grounded, things like that. And the sun in Taurus really enjoys that. There's a sense of financial groups as well, with both sun in Taurus and sun in Libra. Sun in Libra has more of a artsy kind of thing to it, like more of a social art. So there is a sense of, it's interesting because the sun in Libra, like I said earlier, the sun it's not really comfortable in Libra, but it can do really well here if it finds the right partner to bring it to different groups. And that's the other thing, like the sun will also bring you a lot of group dynamics, and it's about evolving your groups and evolving your friends. And so it's a lot about understanding what friendship is to you as a sun 11th house person, understanding what you want your friendship to be and what role you have within your friend groups as well. And the sun in Taurus, once again, with that, there's more of an artistic vibe, financial advisors, versus sun in Libra in the 11th is more of like a actual like being a leader of like a fashion brand, or being known for like a new fringe like fashion design too. That's the same with sun Taurus. They can both have it. Both of them can have that. It's actually a pretty good one. I like the sun in a Venus ruled sign. I think I would like it much more than the sun in a Martian ruled sign that I have, but I think it's still a good thing. You're supposed to advance society through beauty, through art, through peace, not necessarily through conflict relative to the sun, in Aries or Scorpio, right? And then sun in a Mercury ruled sign. So sun in Gemini, this is actually going to be a little bit more important because this is your chart ruler. So if you're this specific one, you are a Leo rising, sun 11th house in Gemini. So this is where this one's kind of unique because it's your chart ruler. and it's in the 11th, and it's in Gemini. So it has this very, very social aspect to it. This is probably the most social aspect you could possibly get for a Gemini placement, because it's the sun, it's in Gemini, in the 11th, very, very bright, very, very social, overly social. And there's an aspect of being too social with this as well, and over-identifying the groups that you're a part of as well, and kind of being a part of two different types of groups. There's something there that I think is really unique when it comes to the sun in Gemini, of being so being able to be a part of every single group. So when we talk about people that were in high school, they're like, oh, I was friends with this person and this person, I was friends with everybody, I was friends with every single group. That's very sun Gemini in the 11th house. Very much they're able to connect and adapt to every single group dynamic and be a part of everything, which can also lead to a lot of gifts, a lot of skills, but there is this identity kind of issue there with that sun in the 11th house in Gemini, because it's so strongly associated with how much it can do in a group dynamic, in a group setting, and for society. And so these could be great writers, amazing writers, and a lot of like connections to group advocacy as well. Like a lot of that can be seen with sun 11th house, but sun Gemini I think has that probably pretty prominent as opposed to other sun 11th housers. Then moving on from that, sun in Virgo, this one's going to have obviously more of a kind of critical nature to their friend groups. These are people that will be in medicine typically, or people that will want to really be perfect their place in society, be able to say this is who it is, who I want to be. Their friends are, there's an interesting critical nature to their friends, but their critical nature to their friends helps them be a lot better as a person. And there is a sense of very strong service providing here. Very much, a lot of group organizing is pretty strong in this one as well. Group service. This is where I would see someone being like a traveling nurse, right? Traveling doctor. Someone who is within medicine, within a healing art to some degree. Or a traveling, like, reader, someone like this. Someone who does service, in a lot of different avenues. And if their groups are within service-based spaces, they're going to do quite well. Just because they're just going to do quite well there. Now, the sun in the sun sign, it's funny because I know someone who has this placement, sun 11th house, in Leo, and she's actually my best friend, and she's great. And her and I get along very well, obviously. And she has this ability to lead a group, be a part of a group, but also, when I was talking about earlier about this aspect of fractalizing yourself and being able to see yourself in so many different reflections through other people, that's a gift. And the sun Leo definitely has that gift, because it's so at home in Leo and it's in the 11th house, so it's able to see itself through so many different other avenues and so many different other groups, and it can connect similarly to the sun in Gemini, because it's ruling that that chart with the Leo rising. It can similarly connect really well to so many different types of people, but it's about just being able to be seen for their advancements, for what they want to do in society, and for what they want to create. And I think knowing my best friend is the way she is, there's so much that she wants to do for society, and she will. And it's very sun 11th house, right? It's about giving yourself, giving your light to some group cause, to some group advocacy thing. And she has multiple different things that she's advocating for right now, and multiple different groups that she's a part of and that she's running. And it's really beautiful to see as another sun 11th houser, this connection with groups in a lot of ways. Sun and the moon signs, sun in Cancer in the 11th house. This one obviously has a lot of sensitivity, a lot of like, there's a word for it. It's not a historian, but it is like it's somewhat like, if we think about Ancestry.com, 23andMe, all of that stuff, that person, either the person that did it, person that goes in it and spends all that time there, that's the sun 11th house in Cancer person, where they want to bring their family to the collective. They want to utilize their family somehow to connect a bunch of different dots. This one's really cool. I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know any sun 11th house in Cancers right now that I can think of, at least personally. I'm sure if I found clients I would find them, but There is an aspect with this one that makes me interested into how they are utilizing their family and their private life for the advancement of society, and for there almost is a sense of like building a commune as well, building like a sense of building like a farm community with the Sun 11th house in Cancer. It's an interesting one. It's definitely an interesting one because it has this like I said, this quality of connecting to family but connecting to society as well. So they could want their they could be very much family oriented, but then also wanting to maybe help a lot of homeless people as well. Could be a part of this. This is where I probably would see that most with Sun in Cancer in 11th. So that's an aspect of that. Yeah, but there's a sense of collection too with the moon. So there's a sense of collecting societal trends and things. Lots of creation, lots of social media advancement, lots of just technological advancement as well. So working in tech, working in homeland security could be a part of that as well. That'd be more like Mars, Cancer 11th, but still. Then what do we have from here? Oh, Sun in Jupiter's sign. So Sun in Sag and Pisces in the 11th. This one's kind of cool. Like, I think this one's fun. This one's fun in its own way. Sun in Pisces, like I said earlier, artists. Lots of artist groups, lots of like kind of lost souls, but really, really, really spiritually connected and divinely connected in such a way that is so beyond our comprehension. That's like, those are the ones that I would be most interested in seeing as a Sun Pisces 11th that's really prominent, right? Because they would have like a really strong gift to give to society, but it would be kind of lost in their nebulousness sometimes. And so this is like really, this is very artist. These are the people that, sad. These are the people that need the most advocacy and need the most, the ones that are really on that fringe and the ones that we typically don't address. Think about people in jails, think about people in hospitals, people that are homeless. This is what I think you would see. Or they could be really good at advocating for that. Really great artists, right? They need to have a sense of purpose with the Sun in Pisces. There needs to be that purposeful kind of connection with that. Yeah, the Sun in Pisces over there, it's Jupiter, Neptune type of stuff. So there's a sense of really, really, really deeply connecting to the collective, to the point that you might lose yourself within that. And that's why I think they need to have art. They need to have some music. They need to have something that connects them to divinity. They need to heal people. They need to be the healers, the mystics. These are really strong mystic leaders as well. Really strong. But can be really lost in that process because, once again, they're not really clear on who they are, what they belong to in the society. But these are ones that are kind of like thrown with the wind wherever spirit wants to take them. Right? And if you're watching this video, Sun 11th house Pisces, I'd love to hear about it. How about it? And then Sun Sag, this one's fun, like as well. This is where the Sun does well because it's in another fire sign, so the other two fire signs are really well for it. So this one is still good. This could be a lot of cultural kind of group advancements, cultural advocacy, a lot of kind of group dynamics, helping teach people in groups. There's a lot of philosophers. There's a lot of like debating as well with both Sun in Gemini and Sun in Sag in the 11th. There's a sense of being on a panel. Sun in Virgo 11th can have that too, where there's a sense of being on some sort of panel. Like when I think of Sun in Sag or Sun in Pisces in the 11th, or even Sun in Aquarius in 11th, there can be this like, I'm getting this image of like the UN, right? The United Nations, you know, this kind of group, culturally kind of mixing pot of different beliefs and different kind of rules and laws and things like that. There's a sense of that. And that's the same for, like I said, that would kind of be a lot of Sun 11th house stuff. Like there's a sense of like really being connected with so many different groups that are very culturally different and being able to find that middle ground and find that faith and that belief and that law. There's a lot of legal stuff here, a lot of legal advocacy as well. 11th house is a really cool place. It's really cool house. As someone who has a lot of stuff there, I like it. Clearly, I've been talking for a long time about this one. I really like this house. And then finally, we have Sun and Saturn. So Sun in Capricorn, Sun in Aquarius in 11th. This one has a, obviously a delay to it. This is where you'll see the quintessential leader, the boss the boss of the group leader, very much that. And Sun Capricorn, very much someone who is very strong, very, very strong in what they want to give. They can be more identified with older groups and more wanting to be a part of like the capitalist systems, unfortunately, and needing to kind of go around that kind of traditional mindset. There can be a sense of tradition with that. It's a unique one. This, like I said, they're all really unique. The Sun 11th is such a unique placement because it's really about utilizing your own identity for a group dynamic. And so with the Sun in Capricorn, there can be a sense of wanting to utilize your identity to uphold the past. And then like Sun Aquarius can still have that like wanting to kind of do a little bit of both, upholding the past, but then also progressing towards the future. And there's a sense of stability in this. There's a sense of working in government, working in strong structures that have been around for a very long time. Working with elders, right? Working with older people, working with people that are disabled as well. Sun Capricorn can have that. Capricorn has this sense, and I should have mentioned this in the Capricorn videos, but Capricorn has this sense of working with things that are old, working with things that are outdated, things that are at their expiration, right? Working with things that are retired or retiring, or ending, or have expired or are expiring. There's a sense of that. There's a sense of working with expired groups, or once again, kind of fringe groups as well. There's an interesting one here. Historians, that's a big historian one with the Capricorn 11th. So yeah. And then obviously Sun Aquarius, I did this one here, but this is just a really strong one up here. It's still, this actually helps, the Sun Aquarius 11th, this actually helps because it allows the sun to still be public. It's not like it's Sun Aquarius in the 4th or like at the bottom of the chart where it's very, very, very private within that kind of social outreach. With the Sun in 11th in Aquarius, it has that benefit of being at the top of the chart. So it kind of requires social outreach, requires groups, requires an audience, requires fans and support in that way, requires a following. That's the other thing with Sun 11 that I need to kind of mention, and I hadn't mentioned, is there's a lot about following. And I mean that in the sense of getting a following. Being perceived, being seen, and just being like, oh, people want to follow that sun, follow that light, right? They want to kind of follow that person. And so Sun 11th can have a sense of somewhat fame to it as well, where they're just recognized for being out there, and then people want to follow them. 11th house also has connections, once again, to fame and to fans, and your fans and those friends that support you, your friend groups, your associates, who you associate with. And typically, if you are a Sun 11th house, you will have, and I've had it, people that treat me like fan behavior, and it's hard to know how to navigate that sometimes, right? I've learned to, but it's just interesting. The Sun 11th has that, like it does, and it has this sense of when it's connected to collective consciousness so deeply, and so just naturally, the Sun 11th house, it connects to people in so many different ways that it has this reaction of so many different people in so many different ways. Like it can also be very polarizing, where people very much do not like what you stand for as well. There can be an aspect of that where they don't like what you stand for, they don't like what you preach about, they don't like what cause you want to identify as. So there is a sense, once again, Sun 11th house, of being ridiculed or belittled or criticized for your identity, for what you are advocating for yourself. And there is a gift of doing that. And that's where I think the Aquarius placements, Sun house placements, have such a gift, because they're able to give so much to society through just merely existing and being seen. And I can speak on that as a Sun 11th house person. Just by being seen, just by existing, just by showing up, you are doing so much for representation, for advocacy, for society, for your fellow human, for yourself, right? The sun is so self-focused, so you're doing so much for yourself. Show up, be seen. You're meant to be seen as an 11th house sun. It's meant to happen. You're going to do it, and it's going to be great. and allow yourself to connect to some group cause, some advocacy work. That's where you're going to really shine, when you are advocating for something. So yeah, I hope this helps. I love doing this. I love this video. I loved talking about this. And I appreciate you for listening to me talk about this. Anyone that may come across this video at any point in time. I love doing this. This is what I do for a living. If you can't tell, I love it. It gives me so much life. It gives me so much joy. And I hope this video helps literally anyone. If it helps one person, that's all I care about. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this. And if you guys have any questions, obviously put them down below. I'd love to hear about it. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. You know it's YouTube, right? And if you're interested in anything with me, obviously I have stuff down below. I have my links down below. If you want to book with me, feel free to do that. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one where we talk about more Aquarius placements, more 11th house placements. So stay amazing, stay different, stay unique, stay yourselves, and keep on shining. So love you. Talk to you guys soon.